Links to join the channel here, become a member over at subscribe. Be sure to join the Odyssey and Rumble. They mirror this channel, and plus there's other stuff over there. If you're not on Rumble and you make videos, you're absolutely missing out. It is the place to be. It has a much more honest algorithm, so if you're slightly politically incorrect on YouTube, as you might be, Rumble is going to be way more friendly to you. So James Gunn versus Zachary Levi of Shazam fame and the dark future of the DC. You got these 3 articles, I think, dealing with James Gunn and the DC from bounding into comics. So what happened? And keep in mind that Ezra blown out of his mind Miller, if you saw that Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller interview, it's on YouTube. It's so freaking... Like, you look at this guy and think, you need to go to rehab. Like, go directly to a 28-day program, friend. And I think, honestly, it's probably going to be more like a 6-month program for you. But at least 28 days to work those first 12 steps, buddy, because whatever you are on, you need to dry out from. So Ezra Miller is fine. Like, they're bending over backwards to make sure we got to keep this guy in as the Flash. And like, okay, he was okay, right? I mean, he's an okay actor. He's got a great look. He's got great cheekbones, and like he fits the I don't know. He's just got such a sharp face, you know. But like nobody is going to theater to see Ezra Miller for anything. Or even the Flash. I mean, that was no offense to the Comicsgate community, some of the people who had the opportunity to draw him or maybe even write him. That was not a major draw for people. It was like Superman and Batman for sure, but the Flash, not so much. But they're bending over backwards to keep Ezra Miller, this guy who clearly has got some kind of pharmaceutical issue, or maybe there's some other mental issues. But Henry Cavill is, again, get rid of Henry Cavill. It's like, whoa, hold your horses there. People like Henry Cavill, and they like his portrayal of Superman. He's not a big name draw either. He's kind of a quiet, more reserved person, but he's more of a draw than Ezra Miller as the Flash. Like, none of this is making sense. And he's playing the Superman. It's like slowly growing on us, and you're just, we're gonna make we'll get this article. We're gonna make a younger Superman. And we didn't not cast him. We just didn't cast him. Okay, technically you could de-age him if you wanted to go some back in time stuff. Anyway, so 2 things. James Gunn is dropping hints about the future of DC, which is not a good sign. But if I'm going to keep it 100 with you, it's all moot because it's going to suck anyway. Like, the future of Hollywood in general is going to suck. In the genre, and probably almost in all genres, except maybe period pieces where you're stuck by the rules of the time period. And I talked to a couple of people about, like, what movies are they looking forward to in the future, and what would it take, not just watching the movies, but what would it take to get you into the theaters? And there's not a whole lot of enthusiasm. Ant-Man Part 3 and Guardians Part 3 were mentioned, and I look at those and think, like, yeah, Guardians has got maybe some energy behind it, but the rest of the stuff, Ant-Man, okay, they're going to the quantum realm, that looks cool, but I think they race swapped one of the main characters. Like, I can't be into that, obviously. Anyway, so I used to dig the superhero flicks, but like all things, they just got ruined by Hollywood. And I've said this: if you go back and watch the original 2008 Iron Man, it was set in the warm, sandy place, and the bad guys were from that region. And then, I know it's switching universes, but then compare it to Black Adams with The Rock that just came out. And it was still set in the warm, sandy place, but the bad guys were British. And I know I sound like I have a tinfoil hat on. Yeah, I'm aware. But watch those 2 flicks and then compare it in your mind, like the portrayal of different groups of people and how they're portrayed. 2008 Iron Man was somewhat realistic. It was tied to the real world about that place and who was really there and and it made the USA look bad too, because the Stark Industries was a stand-in for the USA, who, if in case you don't know, is a massive weapons dealer to sell that area. So it was like it connected with an audience because it was tied in a more realistic way. And then in Black Adams, it just came out, it's like it's some English gang. Is there? Are they the UN? Are they a private corporation like a BlackRock, or what was that group called? Why exactly are they there, and why are the bad guys English? I think you know what I'm saying with that. It's like, and that was only in a matter of, a decade when they switched that around. And Quinkadinkly, Black Adams has not done well. So a few points. It didn't seem like DC came together as well as Marvel, but I admit that the characters were starting to grow on me. Jason Momoa, as almost said Aqualung, Henry Cavill, and the rest. So then what do? They say they need to get rid of Henry Cavill, and they're probably going to get rid of the rest as well. They should have just changed the direction of writing and directing and kept the people who were starting to grow on people. It's not like there's anything coming out that would make me call up the nerd phone and go see a movie with somebody. I don't see that ever happening. That idea of like getting out and going to see a movie. Last movie I was invited out for was somebody, group of people wanted to go see the Wakanda Part Two, and I told them to be a Debbie Downer. Right? I told them you're really gonna regret seeing that movie. It's not a good movie. And they go, I like the first one. Yeah, this is not the first one. They went and they saw it and they come back. It's like, oh, okay, well, it is what it is. So really, what's the point for paying for Disney, HBO, Amazon, Netflix? You're paying for all that stuff per month, and then you also go pay to see the stuff in the theaters. Why do you go through all the trouble of having like a big screen TV and then, that little speaker bar and you got good sound and you got a nice little setup and everything is arranged and you're paying for all that stuff and then you're also spending $15 on a ticket. So like a lot of people end up spending like $50 on all those streams I mentioned plus theater tickets. It seems like overkill. The theater is a unique experience. I can understand that. But the rest you can just kind of surf the VPN-Cs with an external hard drive and build up your own collection, and then you have it forever, and you don't have to trip on it. And like I said, you look at the future of Hollywood, and it's obvious that we're on the steep downward slope. I mean, if you got a collection of these films, and you notice that, you can tell where the curve of the films is, and it's like it seems like it might have peaked somewhere in the 80s. And you're looking at the things that interest you, and you notice there's fewer and fewer things that come out that interest you. What are some huge hits that connected with an audience in the past 20 years? Lord of the Rings, I think you could say that was huge. Harry Potter was connected with people. And, there's not a ton of stuff like there was in previous decades. I'd rather just make a little popcorn at home and watch it on my little tablet with my Bluetooth speaker. And the thing is, if a movie's good on a tablet, then it's a good movie. Because when you go to the theater, you can get kind of psychologically fooled with the energy that is present in a big screen, a big sound type of thing, and you give it a high score, and then you come home and you rewatch it at home and you give it a more realistic score. It's like that with a lot of movies that are, back in the 90s, it would have been like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. You go see Total Recall in the theater, and you think it's brilliant, and then you watch it again. It's like it's still a good movie, but it's not, Or I will say, Terminator Part 2, I saw that in the theater and then came home. I've seen it again. It's like, oh, that movie just holds up. That was just a solid movie. So, anyway, my point was, no matter what direction DC is going in, it's not going to be good. Hollywood is deep into this soft, woke, Bolshevik revolution. That's not about to change. I mean, it's been going on really since post-World War II, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But the 2016 Trump and then the 2020 Summer of Love, that changed things forever, to the point where you can look at all Hollywood and go, oh, I guess I'm just not going to go to the theater anymore. And that's not such a crazy thing to say anymore, because you start looking around at the movies that you enjoyed and then the modern kind of woke interpretations of the past 10 years. And it's like, you're just not going to get movies that you look forward to anymore. And the thing with James Gunn is he's the guy who had a bunch of tweets about kids, which is kind of pretty much standard in Hollywood. So they gave him a year off and then he came back, I think, between Guardians 1 and 2. Hollywood, of course, can forgive him because, they're the same sort of people. Hollywood has got a lot of that type of, they literally had an island set up where they could fly out there. So, that's not like a deal breaker for them. Hollywood did not seem too concerned about that. And I'm not saying James Gunn is that kind of guy. I don't think so. I think he's more the guy who didn't socialize properly as a kid. He's kind of missing something, and he never grew out of that attention-seeking phase of being a little kid saying just the stupidest, most outrageous stuff. And he was also never in a position where people could give him honest feedback, because either, he was in the movie industry and you're surrounded by people with these egos, and there's no need to make waves unless you absolutely have to. And but it was disturbing things to read, and it's stuff you can't even talk about on YouTube. But the thing is, the reason I make this video is because there is this interview And Gunn is asking about something like, well, what if actors do something like I think, referring to like the Zachary Levi tweet the other day about, he said roughly that, Pfizer might be a collection of blood sucking parasites. Will that cause issues in DC? And Gunn said, no, actors say things that they can disagree with as long as it's not an issue of moral turpitude, not something reprehensible. Like perhaps tweets about James Gunn abusing kids, like the very thing he actually said just about a decade ago. So Zachary Levi saying Pfizer is a corporate entity that deserves some criticism. Well, that got everyone's attention on Twitter a few days ago. And the Twitter commie kids assumed that he meant that oh, I guess he just retired from Hollywood, which, he very well could do, because he made one little tweet. Even the Mary Sue had this long article about the problematic history of yeah, he's some kind of Christian or something, and for some reason that really triggers the toxic left wing on social media. And he went on some kind of Christian talk show and did an interview, and for something like this, the most innocuous stuff drives them insane. Where, if he was any other religion, they would never even mention it, because he went on some kind of, he went on, one of their complaints is just as asinine as possible, is he went on Joe Rogan to do some interview, and Joe Rogan used someone's name before they changed the name, and it was on, like, the kids were mad because Zachary didn't correct Joe Rogan's use of this actor's old name when they changed their name when they got a whatever, and that's enough to upset them. Like the kids today. The kids today, I don't think the kids today I don't think they're all right, and I don't think they're headed for a world that they're going to enjoy the fruits of. Anyway, they're just so insanely woke on Twitter. It's absolutely insufferable. If you're not on Twitter, they try to explain like, oh, this is some big deal on Twitter, and you look around outside of Twitter, it's like, it's only on Twitter. There's maybe a collection of 250,000 people on Twitter who are interacting with this concept that you think is a big deal, and then you get outside of that and you go like, that's just it. And there's, even of that 250,000, there's probably like 2,500 who are deeply, deeply engaged with whatever you're arguing about. Twitter's not nothing, but it's not what they think it is either. And the the other thing is, like, they got so on board with that company I mentioned, the PF one, and that one product that that everyone's that came out. For some reason, it's become like a religion to them. I myself did not partake of such things, but something weird happened to the left where they got brainwashed into defending big corporate machine. Now the Rage Against the Machine left is on board, trusting the government, the media, and companies that a few years ago they would have laughed their rear ends off at the idea. And that's pretty much the definition of what subversion looks like. I mentioned the 2012, the Occupy Wall Street. We're bringing attention to the financial institutions. I don't even want to name them because I don't want to press the algorithm too much. And then those financial institutions started funding their floats. The left. That's weird. Is that subversion? Well, well, hey, I can't help but notice that you have a new AMG. Did you get a $200,000 car? Well, I became a consultant for BlackRock. Oh, okay, that's is that $183,000 Audi? Well, consulting fees for Bank of America, but don't you run your local branch of the Antifa equivalent? Well, yes, but I can do both. I can sit on these boards and, okay. I mean, it's like, don't you have an infinity pool? What the hell is going on here, buddy? I kid you not. I mean, you think I'm joking, right? But so the BLM crew, didn't you buy 4 homes in LA? That's not hyperbole. That actually happened. Well, yes, I did buy 4 homes in LA. Okay, is anyone going to do a tracing and co-mingling? That's when you trace the funds and to make sure that nobody breached their fiduciary duty and commingle funds and committed fraud. Is anyone going to do that? Like the district attorney's office? Anyone? Is anyone going to investigate any of this? Well, no, because it's BLM. And, well, it would be politically okay. We're just so effed, aren't we? Yeah, oh yeah, but I mean, like you knew that You knew that a long time ago. The media, was it the Hegelian dialectic? It's kind of exemplified in George Lucas's prequel Star Wars, with the Emperor sees power. You create an emergency to take away rights. It's like, well, if you do that, then won't the government just create emergencies and just continue? Like, the emergency will never end, right? If the government can remove some liberties. Well, yes, that's true. The emergency never ends. Like endless wars, kind of since 1914. Weird how that all happens. The media makes people so scared that then all you have to do is offer a solution. Say, okay, we'll take the fear away. We'll give you an out. Here's the exit. The Judas goat leading you up the pathway, and we'll take the fear away. I just need to see some power temporarily, and then we'll give it back when the emergency passes. Yeah, but it never passes, and the power never comes back to the people. It just goes. The bureaucratic government is like a leech or a tick. It just keeps growing larger and larger. It never gets smaller in size. I mean, you can look at the value of the dollar, the exponential growth of the dollar, and the geometric decline of the dollar, and the growth of debt. It's like those two things are just pull away from each other since 1913. Those four estates that were founded in 1913. Anyway, so the media made the left wing so scared that all they had to do was offer them a solution and they could control them. And I kind of assumed that the left wing had more of a spirit of rebellion than that. But like the same kids, like these same left wing Twitter kids who are shilling for the media, the government, and that company, the company that's pushing a product. They're like all on board defending billion-dollar companies. Kind of weird. I might have to edit that last little bit out. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you to Vegan and Ireland and everyone else on Subscribestar who's making some interesting things happen. And I will see you guys all next episode.